Hi, it's Paul, and I'm going to talk today about a topic that can be uncomfortable, but we're going to try to make it a little less uncomfortable, and that's angry customers. In our business, unfortunately, sometimes customers will get angry. Mistakes will be made, we'll be running late, there'll be something a little bit wrong, or they may just misunderstand the situation, and they'll get angry and they'll come at us with a raised tone of voice, and each of us are in this situation at times. We're going to walk through how to deal with that, how to make sure that you understand what's happening and the goal for that interaction so that we all do a better job in dealing with our customers. I'm sure you've all met this lady. This is the no pay holdback lady, right? She says, you scratched my dining room table. I'm not paying you anything until you fix it. You get nothing from me, right? Very angry, very elevated in terms of her perspective, a very elevated emotion in terms of her perspective, and certainly someone that we encounter on occasion. So I'm sure a few of you have seen this lady. How about this lady, the you're a smelly thief lady, right? My dust ruffle is missing. Your crew members smell bad. I'm pretty sure they stole it, right? These are really uncomfortable calls to get, whether you're that crew member who might be a little smelly or whether you're in the office hearing about it. These calls come in as well. And of course, we all know this guy, the destroyed legacy victim. You broke my mother's favorite china bowl, and our family will never be the same, right? So these are all people that come at us on occasion with a very heightened emotion, and frankly, they're just quite angry. The problem with angry customers is that they will give us one-star reviews if we don't resolve the situation. So we need to resolve the source of their anger, but also more than that, we need to help them come from that place so that in the end, they're not still holding on to that resentment, which ends up with a one-star review, because they do have an avenue to strike back, and that's the one-star review. So our goal is to help them out of this situation with a calm, well-programmed reaction. That means as soon as you hear the elevated tone, as soon as you hear the situation, you should remain calm and come back with a programmed reaction. And program just simply means it's memorized, it's comfortable, your voice is nice and easy, you talk them through it, and you're able to actually react quickly and not really have to think too much about it nor feel like you're scrambling. That will have a huge impact on the resolution of the situation. What you are going to do is you will react with little emotion while entering their world of extreme emotion to guide them as they come to a place of less emotion so a resolution is possible. That's really important to understand. You're going to remain calm. You're going to enter their world. You're going to bring them down slowly through a series of questions and interactions that I'm going to show you here so that they get to a point where they're thinking rationally and a resolution is possible. So here's how the world breaks down when it comes to people and their emotions. There's the revenge zone and the resolution zone. The revenge zone is anytime a person is angry or irritated and in a heightened state of emotion. What's happening is all the blood has gone from their brain, it's gone into their limbs, they're in fight or flight mode, and that's a mode we get into when we feel threatened, when we feel like we've lost control, when we feel like we're not safe. It's a very natural reaction that helped us survive in the wild, but now in a moving situation, it turns a person into someone who can be quite irrational, and it is proven in science that we are 31% less intelligent when we're in fight or flight, because we're not supposed to be thinking, we're supposed to be acting and doing. So what we hear in the revenge zone is essentially this message from people. This situation is unfixable. I'm going to get you back, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the language that you hear when that happens. And you've all heard this language, and certainly with our two examples, you saw that as well. The resolution zone is when people are neutral or they're actually quite happy with what has happened, but there's a problem that they want to have fixed. And the essential message from the resolution zone is, I will be okay if you take these actions to fix these things, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the language there. So our job is to listen to where people are when they call and give us feedback, and to take a calm, programmed reaction to the situation based on what we hear and which zone they're in. You're going to listen and determine from which zone they are speaking, revenge or resolution. You are not going to propose any resolution while they're in the revenge zone. That's just a waste of time. They're not ready to hear it, and so we're not going to do that. And your role is to move them from revenge by move them from the revenge zone by taking down the problem list. And we'll talk you through that here in a second. That's all you have to do. So you're going to listen, identify the zone. If they're in revenge, you're going to move them down by taking down a problem list, and then you're going to hand it off for resolution to someone else. That's your role. That's all you're going to do. So let's talk it through. So listening for the zone. First of all, when somebody calls in, it's really important to determine where they are on the zone. So the revenge wording is really clear. It's like we talked about. It's, this is unresolvable, I'm going to get you back. So it's something like, I'm taking this to Channel 2 News. Right? I'm going to take it to the authority, and we're really going to take it to you. You broke the chair I remember sitting in as a 5-year-old, right? How do you solve that? You absolutely can't, right? Or something, your crew said you underbid all the time, right? These are types of accusatory language. There's a bit of a taste of revenge in there. And what they're really saying is, this situation is not fixable. You, Majestic Mountain Movers, are the problem, and you must be punished, right? That's what they're saying there. So it's very clear when they're saying this. And when you hear that, they're in the revenge zone. The resolution wording, you have to listen for it, but it's actually different, right? So you hear often people will qualify it, and they'll say, hey, the move went great except for that chair, that broken piece of glass, etc., right? So they'll always lead off with a compliment or something positive, saying, hey, everything was great except, right? And so they're trying to balance it. They're trying to actually say, this went well except for that. And that means they're thinking. They're in the resolution zone, right? Your guys were great, but we had this one problem, right? That's also resolution zone language, right? So, or the third one is, it's not on the chart, is they'll sometimes try to minimize it by saying, oh, we had this one small problem, I'm sure it'll be okay, right? It's not going to be okay until we fix it, but they're showing that they're in the resolution zone. And what they're really saying is, some things went well, I know what I want fixed, right? So they're very clear on that. It is a cardinal sin. It is a very bad thing to have someone in the resolution zone and through inattention, bad reaction, or bad process to push them into the revenge zone. And we've had that happen here, and that's a bad thing. Once they're in the resolution zone, then we want to move to resolution. So if they're in the resolution zone, the revenge zone, you want to get into their world. And all that means is you're going to ask open-ended questions, and it's very easy to do. So an open-ended question is something like, how did the rest of the move go? Real simple. So somebody calls in, they say, hey, you guys got here, the move is done, I want to ask a couple questions. Say, how did the move go? Nice and open-ended. They can say anything. At that point, if they're in the resolution zone, you'll start to hear things. What else concerns you? If you hear a concern, hey, I didn't like how this one thing's out. What else concerns you, right? So you open it all up. What did not go right that we haven't talked about, we haven't discussed yet? So what you're doing is you're opening it up. So did everything else go okay? You're opening it up and you're saying, look, anything is possible here. Tell us what you're thinking of. These are open-ended questions in their world. You don't apologize. You don't say anything. You go into their world and say, tell me more. If they feel really angry, if it feels really frustrated, you want to label the emotion, right? So you want to say, you crew underbid all the time, right? You sound angry when you say we underbid all the time. What else are you thinking about when you say that? And so what you're doing is you're just reflecting back the words, but you're saying you sound frustrated. Is it because of the thing you just said? And what happens is, in our minds, when we label our emotions, the emotion tends to go away. So if somebody says, I'm angry, they actually immediately are less angry. So we're asking open-ended questions. If there's a bit of emotion we're reading in tone of voice, you can say something like, you sound a little frustrated. Is it because of the thing you just said? This will take practice. The problem list. Every one of you can take down the problem list. And it's the final step in this process of moving people from the revenge zone. And it's super easy to do. So you're going to replay their concerns back in very concrete terms. You destroyed my dresser. We destroyed if they say, you destroyed my dresser, what you can say as an open-ended question is, we destroyed your dresser. What happened? And what that does is it asks them in a nice way to give more specifics, because destroyed doesn't really say anything. You ruined my floor. We ruined your floor. What happened? Or, we ruined your floor. Tell me about that. And what that does is it says very gently, I need a little bit more information. So you're going to push them for very specific. So things like ruined or destroyed doesn't really tell us anything. I have a scratch on my floor tells us something. Let's look at the examples on the chart, right? You did untold damage, and these are real examples, becomes a scratch on the dresser or a chip on the mirror. He was rude to me, or he disrespected me, becomes he pointed his finger and said, pack your own boxes. Very different. My son is devastated because he doesn't have his favorite bed, becomes a twin bed is missing. And these are actually all real cases. So what you're doing by reflecting back and just asking them gently about the specifics of what's happening is we're taking it from this undifferentiated term, which means this is destroyed, to the leg broke on the table. And it may take several steps. So if you look on the bottom of the chart again, you did untold damage after some asking, could become you ruined my dresser, which could become there was a huge scratch on my dresser, which becomes a scratch on the dresser, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to take this idea of asking and probing questions or open questions, and you're going to create a problem list. And the problem list is very simple, right? By immediately responding, asking these open-ended questions, labeling the emotion, and listing the problems, you're going to come up with a list that sounds like, we told you we would arrive at 8, and we actually arrived at 8:30. 2 boxes are missing. The job lead said lift your own boxes to you, and there are footprints on the carpet. That's a problem list. It's real. It's specific. If you could took a camera, you could take a picture of these items, or you could hear it on the video. And if after you do all of that, and you're able to read that problem list out to people, and they respond, that's right, you have them in the resolution zone. Because several things have occurred in that case. We've walked them through the problems, we've listened, we've been attentive, we've labeled the emotions, and we've actually gotten it correct in terms of all the problems that they have. So very specifically, you want to listen for, that's right. Once you've gotten there, you can then hand it off for resolution to other folks. And this is how we go from the revenge zone to the resolution zone. So remember, we always respond, we ask open-ended questions, we list the problems and reflect it back to them to generate that problem list. And that's how you can contribute to taking angry customers and bringing them out of that anger into a better place. Thanks very much.